Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. I am Rao Aisha Sadiq, lecturer, Department of English, Institute of Southern Punjab, Multan. Welcome to another exciting episode of Lingua Literaria. Today, our discussion is on literature, its significance, new emerging trends and perspectives in the field of literature, and the career opportunities for the students of English literature. I feel honored and privileged to introduce my guest in our studio. He is none other than Head Department of English, Institute of Southern Punjab, Multan, Dr. Saleem Khan. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
He has served as Head Department of English, Government College University, Faisalabad Laya campus, Head of the Department, University of Sialkot, Associate Dean of Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, University of Sialkot. He has taught in Namal, Islamabad. He has 11 years of teaching experience in different national universities in Pakistan. His teaching experience, his research and his scholarship is in the field of, his areas of teaching, research and supervision include post-colonialism, existentialism, modern novel and literary theory. He is researcher, translator, critic and writer, Dr. Saleem Khan. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for your gracious introductory words. I'm grateful.
Sir Saleem, as we all know that in English studies we have two broader distinctions, the distinction between linguistics and literature, and we have various definition of literature. It is said to be the mirror of society. It's a depiction of society or a representation of life. Being a scholar in English literature, what do you think, or what you say that what is the definition of literature?
Well, literature belongs to the category of fields that are suspicious of prim definitions. So, in that very context, the question of the definition of literature remains daunting and confounding one. However, to put it in very precise words in a very simple way or the oversimplified manner, it is the kind of writings that is marked by the artistic merit and the aesthetic appeal. But of course, it is a tangential definition, and
yes,
in one way there lies a paradox that literature has the prowess to describe the undescribable. It can say the unsayable, but the irony is that we lack the language to describe what literature is. So, therefore, we are always confused, and we tend to make use of highfalutin language to assuage our lack of ability to define literature, and we are always using indexical references to evoke the sense of literariness, but we are always falling short of the succinct definition of literature, I think. But of course, the main idea of literariness and literature can be connoted by using words like aesthetic and artistic and imaginative and these kind of expressions.
Aesthetic appeal and imaginative, artistic appeal of literature. Okay. Sir, from Homer to the present or even contemporary day writers, we teach all of them in our classroom. So, how are there are changing and emerging trends and new perspectives and new dimension in the field of literature. So, what do you think that how are literary writings relevant even to life and even today?
If we take the instance of classics or the canonical writings, there are always two aspects of every work, especially classics. One is the presence of perennial universalities that are relevant for every time, every age, every person. There are certain particularities, idiosyncrasies even that are peculiar to that very writer or that very age or the specific audience, but when it comes to the communication of universalities ranging from the very personal feelings, inner recesses of human mind to the colossal kind of human visions ranging from politicality to the dynamics of war, the classics are always relevant. They are there to teach us, they are there to depict the subtle nuances of human emotions and perception and the shades of reality, I think.
So, what is the scope of teaching the classics with the new contemporary research in the fields of literature, new perspectives and dimensions?
Of course, classics have the potential to be framed from the perspective of the contemporary theoretical developments. Okay, for example, if we look at Shakespeare or even Sophocles, we take instance from Greek writings, we are always there to develop contemporary critique by relating them to the discourses that are there in our society. Okay,
Exactly.
we may develop a structuralist critique of Oedipus Rex, or we may develop a psychoanalytical analysis of Hamlet by Shakespeare. So, these kind of instances just bespeak the potential and profundity of those classics, and their relevance cannot be denied, I think. But of course, this kind of generalization is to be that very peculiar sense. It does not mean that I am floating that very myth of universality, that they are panacea for all the human problem, for all the ages. That kind of you may call meta narrative about the universality of classics is no more relevant, apparently.
So, okay. So, related to your this answer, I pose one more question. How do you approach or think we should approach teaching canonical texts in a contemporary context?
Of course, I have already tried to explain this very idea that when we are trying to reread, if I try to use more appropriate word, those classics that have already been critiqued from the traditional perspective, we try to put a contemporary look upon them. It is just a kind of dialogue between the traditional consciousness and the contemporary consciousness. So, this kind of dialectical positionality in many different ways, it may create room for innovation in the field of literary ideas, and we may come up with new interpretations, because it will create a kind of dialogue between the traditional and the contemporary.
Okay. So, as we both know that we have the student who do not share the same passion for literature in our classroom. So, teaching literature especially to those students who may not initially share your passion for literature, and of course, we do not have students. So, sir, it demands creativity and adaptability on the part of the teacher. Your opinion or suggestion to students who may not be interested in literature?
I think here at this point, I think that we should avoid this kind of elitist idiom. None of us is born with the literary taste in our bones. The literary taste is to be accrued, okay? And it is the job of the teacher to teach and to persuade and to train the students, so that they may grow, and with them, with their growth of their knowledge, there is a simultaneous growth of their taste. So, all these things are to be accrued. Those days when it was believed, due to that very privileging taxonomy, that there are some people having taste embedded in their very consciousness, and that kind of condescending discourse, I think it is least relevant in the contemporary society. So, that is why our aim should be to teach and to persuade and to inspire our students, instead of framing them that they have not got that level of passion that is required for this kind of knowledge or that kind of knowledge.
Exactly.
Those elitist idioms are to be ignored, even if they are relevant, even if they have got that very tinge of truth. still we should strategically ignore them because of the functionality of motivation in teaching.
Teaching and classroom. Okay. So there is a general perception in our society that the only profession for English studies degree holder is teaching, is just teaching. So my question is that what are the expectations for professional development and growth for the student of English literature? What are the market perspectives and career opportunities for the students of English literature?
Here, with apologies to the thrust of your argument or question, whatever it is, I am very skeptical about the corporate advisories with reference to the domains of humanities. But as we live in a society, or rather we live in a corporate continuum, so we can not be totally indifferent to the dynamics and the requirement of the society to which we belong. So under the new spell of neoliberalism, we are bound to think about these kind of shades of these academic discourses. So if you look at Pakistani society,
Okay.
because of this reason or that reason, I mean due to the colonial mentality or the colonial heritage, or because of the internationality of English language, and because of the it has become the language of technology and academia. So there are pros and cons of this discourse, but its relevance is quite prevalent. Okay, and obvious, ostensibly we see that there are myriads of opportunities for the English majors, ranging from teaching to bureaucracy. Everywhere
Exactly.
you will see that there is a kind of sense of supremacy that has been attached with
the students.
English graduates. So this is how it is lucrative and rather seductive.
So your this stance on career opportunities for students, definitely they will feel privileged by your this answer, and they will find new opportunities and career opportunities in the field of English studies and English literature. So it's a time. There's a time for a short break. See you after the break.
Institute of Southern Punjab Multan, the largest and pioneer degree awarding institute in South Punjab region.
Welcome back, audience. Before break, we were discussing about definition of literature, teaching of canonical texts, and career opportunities for the students of English literature. So after break, my question to Dr. Saleem Khan is that, sir, what is the relevance of literary studies to the society and life in general?
Here, as literary studies, this field, literature, is in many different ways different from the other domains of knowledge. But as far as the foundation or the anchorage of this field of studies is concerned, it is on the same foundation. In other ways, if we put it theoretically, it shares the ontological foundation with all the domains of knowledge. As it is produced in a society, it is consumed in a society, it is in reciprocal relation with society, that it is shaping and simultaneously being shaped by the society. Okay. Sometimes it is representing and reflecting social dynamics, sometimes it is being shaped by society in which it is being produced, sometimes it is trying to create the required consciousness. So, its instructive mode, its receptive mode, its reflective mode, there are many ways in which literature engages with a society. And if we look at the matter in another way, we see that there is representation, reflection of the passions like love, fear, angst, and all those psychic issues, emotional issues, or moral ethical issues. In another way, it reflects political issues, institutional issues. So, everywhere literature is always premised upon the very existential conditions of the society with which it is trying to negotiate or it is trying to engage. So, I think in this way literature is very much connected with society. It is not a kind of Laputa that has been created only for the aesthetic pleasure, that has got no relevance with human actualities or the practical needs of human society. So, it is a kind of skewed perception of literariness, otherwise it is very much alive.
So, you say that it's quite relevant to
Of course,
society,
it has always been relevant. So, it has got no option to be irrelevant because
yes,
it is being precipitated by society and it is trying to precipitate society and social dynamics. So, this reciprocity is the very life of literature, and I do not know if it takes departure from that very existential requirement in the sense of existence of literary studies, how will it survive?
Okay. Sir, I was reading an interview of Kamila Shamsi where she lamented that her works have been translated into more than 20 languages across the world, from French to Arabic, from Arabic to Chinese, even Marathi languages, but none of her work has been translated into Urdu or any other local language of Pakistan. So, my first question in this regard is that you are a translator too. So, being a translator, what do you think that what is the significance and importance of translation? After this answer of this question, I will ask the question related to translation. One more question.
Okay, if we try to perceive importance and significance of translation, so we should keep one thing in mind, that we can now in the times that we are part of, we cannot live without translation. Okay. As the tired cliche goes, world has become a global village.
Exactly.
So, there is always a kind of continuous communication between different societies, different individuals, different states, and of course, there is multiplicity in linguistic terms. Some of them are using languages that are totally different to the version of language that is being used by us. So, without translation there will be a kind communication collapse, and we cannot survive in the contemporary world with that very scenario where there is least room for communication. So, in this way translation is indispensable. Without it we cannot live. So, and as far as the translation of literature is concerned, I think you have mentioned Kamila Shamsi.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Kamila Shamsi, she is a great writer. She has won critical acclaim throughout the world, but she should think about another aspect of this very shortcoming, lack of her translation into Urdu. We should translate her. We should promote our own writers, own in the sense of Pakistani writers. But they should also consider this thing, that why aren't they writing in Urdu? They have produced their novels or dramas or poems, many different Pakistani writers in English. It's good. There is nothing wrong with it writing in English or French or Arabic or any other language. But before throwing this complaint to the readership that there is a dearth or paucity of Urdu translations of their works, they should have written something in Urdu to engage the Urdu audience. Okay. And I think if I am asked to interpret the reason of the lack of their Urdu creative works or the lack of translation, that is the sense of inferiority complex that that is scientifically, linguistics is the scientific as the definition goes. So, in that very linguistic sense, if you believe in that very privileging taxonomy that this language is superior to that language, that is something unacceptable. But practically we are the victim of that very inferiority complex. If we dress like them, if we speak like them, if we write like them, if we use their manners and modes and language, then we are having the aura of superiority. So, the first duty is the duty of the writer when they have got this very opportunity that they can write in one language. Why would they ask other people to translate them? They can self-translate themselves.
Exactly,
So
they can do that.
This is the first thing that they should think about, I think. And this is my humble opinion. Of course, they are great writers, they are in a better position to judge these matters.
Exactly. Quite relevant to this, there comes in my mind that although Pakistani writings in Urdu have been translated into English, but not.
I think this is my position, or I try to contend that because we believe that translating an Urdu work into English, it is upward mobility, and translating French or English into Urdu, it is somewhat downward mobility. This very misunderstanding is causing this very problem, that we are always salivatingly approach an Urdu text that we will translate it into English and it will win an international acclaim. So, this kind of there are functional sides, practical side, I am not denying them. English has become an international language and we should, of course, there is no other option than accepting it, but believing that inherently English is superior or French or some other language is superior to some other language, that is problematic, and that very practice is rooted in this very perception, that is very reductive kind of perception.
Quite enchanting answer and quite thought-provoking. So, your area of specialization is in post-colonialism. So, my question is that you teach post-colonial literature focusing on how texts are shaped by colonization, decolonization and migration. So, how do you encourage students to engage thoughtfully within these contexts and histories?
Okay, the first step should be not the how-ness of this issue, but the why-ness of this issue, that why should they engage? Because it is something inevitable.
Exactly.
It is our filiative relation, it is not our affiliative relation with colonialism or coloniality or our post-colonial status. We have been thrown into a world, the part of the world that is a former colony. So, there is a colonial legacy. The way I am dressed, the way we are seated, the way we are trying to communicate, the very language, every word. So, all these things are the reflection of that very legacy that has penetrated into the chromosomes of our social realities. So, if we are showing indifference to those realities, of course, it is a kind of anosognosia that we have got some deficiency in ourselves, but we are unaware of that very evident deficiency. So, and how to make them engage? So, of course, the consciousness is the first step towards realization of the need for taking action. So first of all, we should create consciousness about the significance and importance of this very post-colonial consciousness, or in general political consciousness, because we are living in a world. My teacher Dr. Safira Wan has coined this very beautiful frame that pre-Saidian innocence is no more relevant. So we are living in a post-Saidian, say post-Saidian in the sense that political actualities are defining our emotional, ethical, institutional practices. So everywhere this politics of colonization is visible, because almost whole the globe was colonized by Dutch, English and French and Portuguese. So when there is realization of that very post-colonial status, then of course there are different modes of resistance available to us. I am afraid is this the appropriate forum to invoke those very modes of resistance. They range from the actual material political resistance to the centers, imperial centers, and in the bottom we have got intellectual responses that are focusing on our feelings and sensibilities towards those imperialist penetration into our society. So I think it will complicate our discourse, so we tend to ignore those debates, and we may discuss it at some other occasion, or at some other forum that might be appropriate for this kind of how-ness, that how to respond, if not retaliate, to the colonial clutch.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts and your insights on this literary debate. So audience, it has been an enlightening session on various aspects of literary debates. Thank you, sir, sharing for your insights on literature, translation studies, post-coloniality and eco-studies. With this, I say Allah Hafiz to audience. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.